Assalamu alaikum.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Hayya ala salah. Hayya ala salah. Hayya ala al-falah. Hayya ala al-falah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah.
Assalamu alaikum. Before I start my khutbah, a friend of mine texted me an hour, maybe 2 hours before the namaz. He said, I want to thank the benevolent and the merciful today. Are you going to be having your Friday prayers? I said, of course. So he's here, Joe Kostmeyer. I told him to come at 1:10, so I came a little earlier. And when I came here, I had two young men from Kazakhstan, waiting here outside the locked door. So welcome to you also, Abile and Douglas. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم. In my first khutbah here, and this is only my third one, so not long ago, I introduced myself as a fellow student of the Quran. As a student, the least that I must do is seek and learn, and the most that I dare do is share. Today I want to share an experience with the Quran. This is merely a personal experience, and it is certainly not a lecture. The Quran has many portals by which it draws in a sincere seeker. We each have our timely and appointed portals. I found this one in Surah Taha, verse 17, to be very intriguing and very inviting. By the way, for the benefit of my English-speaking friends, when I say Allah, I mean God. When I say when I say Musa, I mean Moses. When I say Noah or Nuh, I mean Noah. I'll go back and forth. I found this verse to be very intriguing. وَمَا تِلْكَ بِيَمِينِكَ يَا Musa. And what is that in your right hand, O Moses? I asked myself, is Allah, who is Al-Khabir, all aware, Al-Alim, all knowing, is he asking a question? Is this verse informing us that Moses carried a staff? Well, we can infer that, but is that enough? Is this verse informing us that Moses was right-handed? We can certainly conclude that, but does that suffice for us? Is Allah asking to be informed? Of course not. I could gloss over this verse as merely an opening to a dialogue. But Allah's opening words had already taken place in verses 11 through 14. فَلَمَّا أَتَهَا نُودِيَ يَا مُوسَى إِنِّي أَنَا رَبُّكَ فَاخْلَعْ نَعْلَيْكَ إِنَّكَ بِالْوَادِ الْمُقَدَّسِ طُوًى وَأَنَا اخْتَرْتُكَ فَاسْتَمِعْ لِمَا يُوحَى إِنَّنِي أَنَا اللَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا أَنَا فَاعْبُدْنِي. Then when he came to the fire, he was called, O Moses, lo, it is I am your Rabb. Take off your sandals, you are in the holy valley of Tuwa. I have empowered you, so listen to what is revealed unto you. Of certain it is I am Allah, there is no God but I, hence serve me. So if I were to say that وَمَا تِلْكَ بِيَمِينِكَ يَا مُوسَى was simply an opening verse, it would not be correct. And I should know better that Allah does not engage in small talk. And because this verse seems so simple, there has to be more to it than its literal sense. That is what I call a portal. It invites you to come in, read on, read back, ponder, and reflect. Reflection demands that we continue to see when our eyes are closed or the lights are off, or to hear the voice after the ripples of sound have long faded away. In this verse, there are no complex Arabic words to take the focus away, no pronouns to resolve, no verb tense to struggle with, no grammatical complexities to grapple with. Clearly, a verse inviting us to read on, read back, and ponder. Yes, for its simplicity, this verse is a reminder of why Moses is called Kaleem. Moses is called Kaleem not because God spoke to him alone. Allah speaks to many prophets throughout the Quran. Moses is called Kaleem because of the sustained and human quality of the dialogue between him and Allah. And yes, this question is an example of that quality of dialogue. Is Allah telling us that even though He is beyond human emotions, He sees us in the condition in which we see ourselves, and He relates to us at the level of our relation? There is certainly a scent of divine empathy which is reinforced in 2040 when Allah reveals His empathy for a grieving sister and mother. Istamshi ukhtuka fataqulu hal adullukum ala man yakfuluhu faraja'anaka ila ummika kay taqarra aynaha wala tahzan. So it was under God's watchful eyes when your sister walked over and said, "Shall I show you one who can nurse him? We restored you to your mother, that her eyes be cooled and she not be grieved." But there is more. Allah's openings are always open-ended. One leads to two more, as I like to remind myself. So here is one more aspect. Not all questions are asked for discovery. Certainly not the ones asked by Al-Khabir, Al-Alim, the all-aware, the all-knowing. Some questions are asked to expose the limited perspective of the respondent. Moses responds to Allah stating a worldly fact as plainly as facts can be stated. Qala hiya asaya atawakkau alayha wa ahushu biha ala ghanami waliya fiha ma'aribu ukhra. Moses said, "This is my staff, I lean on it, and I drop down leaves with it upon my sheep, and in it there are other uses for me." And then when Allah responds, we get our answer. Allah had Hazrat Musa and Moses stipulate a fact of his reality before he defines another reality for Moses. Qala alqiha ya Musa, faqalaha faiza hiya hayyatun tas'a, qala khuzha wa la takhaf, sanuiduha sirataha al-ula. God said, "Throw it to the fore, O Moses." So he threw it down, and there right then it was a snake in purposeful motion. God said, "Seize it and do not fear. We shall restore its mode to the former." So is it also not true that a question was asked of Moses so that he could stipulate his fact before his fact was transformed? A fact of an instrument was stipulated for us before the instrument and its fact were transformed. The questions asked by God are the questions of the divine teacher before he is about to impart a lesson. Indeed, in verse 9, before this question was another question asked of the Prophet, peace be upon him, before we and he were given our lesson. وَهَلْ أَتَاكَ حَدِيثُ مُوسَى? Has the lesson of Moses come to you? And what a lesson. When Allah so wills, a shepherd's staff becomes a serpent, or a divinely charged hand, or in a divinely charged hand, it can split a sea to provide passage, or when necessary, it can draw sweet water springs from the desert floor. Does it not follow then, given Moses' use for a staff and God's sirah assigned to it, that the spiritual capacity of our existence, when our existence is in obedience, far exceeds its physical capacity? We know that Moses knew that what Moses the shepherd carried in his hand was a staff, but what Moses the believer and the prophet held and commanded was quite another thing. What Musa had in his right hand was his ikhtiyar from Allah, his empowerment from Allah. The efficacy of a tool, after all, depends upon the artisan's authenticity and dedication. Indeed, the Quran reminds us that the hands devoted to God can become elevated to the hands of God Himself, even when the effort expended is visibly human. Allah tells this mystical truth in very literal terms in this ayah alluding to the battle of Badr. فَلَمْ تَقْتُلُوهُمْ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ قَاتَلُوهُمْ فَمَا رَمَيْتَ إِذْ رَمَيْتَ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ رَمَى. You believers slew them not, but God slew them. And you, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, did not throw when you did throw, but God threw. Our world is merely one mode, one seerah of reality. Our objective reality is therefore only a mode, a phase, a journey. The reality born by any mode of reality is the will of God. We need not try to explain the spiritual with the physical, nor the mystical with the literal. This verse, for all its literal simplicity, stirs the mystical in us. It teaches us to peer beyond the literal. Because only when we stop getting mired in empirical facts only then do we begin to seek the spiritual aspect. Because the Zahir Ayah, the visible sign, is meant to be a pointer to the Batin, the deeper truth. Let me say it another way, Rumi's way. He says, know that the words of the Quran have an exterior sense, and under the exterior sense is an interior sense, exceedingly overpowering. And beneath that interior sense is another interior sense, wherein all intellect becomes lost. The fourth interior sense of the Quran none hath perceived except God, the peerless, the incomparable. And for those of us who are much too rational into quantification and to try to explain the mysteries of ghaib, the mysteries of the hidden reality through worldly forms and phenomena, Rumi warns, in the Quran, do not thou, O son, regard only the exterior. Iblis regards Adam as naught but clay. When we start peering beyond the literal and acquire a sense for the interior, the Quran takes on a personal relevance. It is no longer a book of historical contexts. It starts speaking to us in our changing conditions. With that sense of the internal, let's read this verse. وَقَالَ ارْكَبُوا فِيهَا بِسْمِ اللَّهِ مَجْرَيْهَا وَمُرْسَاهَا إِنَّ رَبِّي لَغَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. Noah said, embark on it. In the name of Allah be its course and its mooring. Of certain my Rabb is ever forgiving, ever merciful. Again, there isn't much factual detail in this verse about the journey of Noah. However, its appeal is not lost upon the heart. Should it not remind us of our own journeys in life through the storms of time? Our life's journeys will often seek buoyancy and often yearn for safe harbor. The prayer of Noah in its inner sense is our prayer too. We need not be on a boat or on a plane to invoke it. وَقُلْ رَبِّي أَنزِلْنِي مُنزِلًا مُبَارَكًا وَأَنْتَ خَيْرُ الْمُنزِلِينَ. And say, my sustainer, set me down on a blessed destination. You are the best of those who deliver placement. We recite this verse when we get behind the wheel of a car. Well and good. But in its inner meaning, this verse applies to the journey of our lives. This prayer is never to be forgotten. In fact, always to be remembered in the turbulent seas of time. Our undertakings with so many choices and crossroads and many failed wrong turns defines our true journey. So you may ask, if Noah's prayer is my prayer, then where's my ark? Before I attempt to answer that, let us savor the interior sense of this grand verse. Alam tara kaifa daraballahu masalan kalimatan tayyibatan kashajaratin tayyibatin asluha thabatan wa faruha fis samai tuti kullaha kulla hinin bi'izni rabbiha wa yadribu Allahu al-amsala lin-nasi la'allahum yatazakkarun. Do you not see how Allah extends an example? A word with spiritual purity is like a good tree. Its roots are firm and its branches in the sky. It bears its fruit in all times by the permission of its sustainer. Allah sets the example for mankind so they may ponder. It is a tree that can wither any storm, and it bears its fruit in all seasons. This good word and this good tree, my dear believers, is the Quran. and under its extended shade and ever extended branches is the guiding shade of the Quran. This is our ark for the journey of life, revealed and read step by step under divine eyes, just like Noah built his ark, plank at a time, under divine eyes. When Rumi points to the fourth interior sense of the Quran, known only to God, he is assuring us that the shade under the tree and the joy of its fruit are not to end in this life. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين. I said this was my personal experience and not a lecture. The one thing I learned is that nothing from Allah fits in a man-made box. Though everything that God has given to us or He's created has a precise qadr. His qadr defines quantification and qualification in human terms. The mystical depth of the conversation between Allah and Moses cannot be contained in a box. I had said earlier that all questions by God are a prelude to a lesson. The substance of this lesson is stated just a verse prior to the question itself. The lesson to which all ayahs, all signs point and converge is itself timeless. Allahu la ilaha illahu lahul asma'ul husna. There is no God but He, and to Him belongs the beautiful names, the beautiful attributes. For all the empathy in the dialogue between God and Moses, our sustainers, our Rabb's inescapable attributes are on beautiful display. While writing this khutbah, I had a rush of zikr of some of these attributes. Al-Khaliq, the creator. Al-Musawwir, the one who assigns shape and form. Al-Muhi, the giver of life. Al-Mumit, the taker of life. Al-Mu'id, the restorer. Al-Mubdi, the one who assigns a beginning to everything. Al-Hadi, the one who guides to himself. Al-Raqib, the one who keeps watch over us. As-Sami, the all-hearing, who hears our thoughts. Al-Basir, the all-seeing, who sees through us. Al-Latif, the one of most unfathomable and subtle ways. Al-Rauf, the affectionate. Al-Jabbar, the one who displaces one order with another. Al-Muqtadir, the one who measures out for all of us. Ar-Rashid, the one who defines rectitude. Ar-Rahim, the merciful. Az-Zahir, the manifested. Al-Batin, the hidden. Al-Awwal, the first. Al-Akhir, the last. That was my rush. I'm sure you will find more. On the other hand, on display are Moses the man's fears and Moses the prophet's, the believer's obedience. I had said before that the spiritual capacity of our existence, when our existence is in obedience, far exceeds its physical capacity. A verse of the Quran, though it simply seems to ask the believers to follow the Prophet's orders, even when they appear to be mundane, in its deeper reflection reveals a priceless possibility that obedience is the link between the spiritual and the physical. God transmutes physical obedience into spiritual essence. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu iza qila lakum tafassahu fil majalisi fafsahu yafsihallahu lakum wa iza qila anshuzu fanshuzu yarfi'allahu allazina amanu minkum wallazina utul ilma darajatin wallahu bima ta'maluna khabir. O you who believe, when it is said to you, make room for one another in your assemblies. Thank you for coming. God will make room for you. When it is said, rise up, then rise up. God will raise to high ranks those of you who believe and are endowed with knowledge. God is fully and perpetually aware of all that you do. When the Prophet was asked a question as to what was ihsan, he responded, ihsan is to worship as you see God. And if you do not achieve this state of devotion, then realize that He sees you. We should take this hadith to heart. Inna Allaha wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi ya ayyuhallazina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. It is of the truth that God and His angels shower blessings upon the Prophet. O believers, send blessings upon him and acknowledge him with prayers of peace. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Allahumma barik ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama barikta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. When we return to our trades after Jummah, let us ask ourselves, what is our answer to what is in our dominant hand? Ma tilka bi yaminika ya Musa. This ayah does draw a picture of a lone man standing vulnerable on two naked feet, yet empowered with uprightness and dexterity. In our dexterity is our ikhtiyar. It is the pair of human hands that give man supremacy on earth. It is in our dominant hand that we hold a pen, a scalpel, a shovel, or our next morsel of food. Is that not reason enough for us to drop on all four to thank Him that He allowed us to stand on just two and freed the other two to touch, to hug, to embrace, and to raise them in prayer? The time for our grand prayer is upon us. As we rise for prayer, consider how timeless and relevant the Quran is. We started our journey by pondering a divine question, and the Quran reminds us that we too were asked an uncomplicated question, and we gave a very uncomplicated answer. Alastu bi rabbikum qalu bala shahidna. Am I not your sustainer? And we responded, yes indeed, and we have borne witness. And now we are about to stand before Him with our shoes removed. If your heart tells you, be in the moment and remove your socks today. And remember the hadith of the Prophet. Ihsan is to worship Allah as if you see Him. And if you do not achieve this state of devotion, then realize that He sees you. Let us find Allah present. When the Imam recites from the Quran, remember that it is God speaking to us in His chosen way, through His glorious Quran, Quranul Majid, with healing and wisdom for us, Quranul Hakim, His undefinable Quran, Quranul Ajaban. What Allah said to Hazrat Musa is relevant to us today and now. I will close with this verse. In case you missed it, the first time I read it partially. I was waiting for this time to read it fully. Allah says, Innani ana Allahu la ilaha illa ana fa'abudni wa aqimus salata ala zikri.